And welcome to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thank you all for tuning in today from wherever you are or from however you're tuning in or watching. My name is Caleb Talley, Director of Marketing and Events for Startup Junkie, with a co-host Jeff Amerine. And
Howdy, everybody.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Tiny Capital. If you're selling your business is a miserable task, months of negotiation, legal fees, and you get to watch your new owner trash the business you built. Well, the founders at Tiny Capital sought to become the buyer that they wish they could have sold to. Fair, fast, and founder friendly. If you're looking for a new home for your internet business, reach out to Tiny Capital and they will respond in a day or two, make an offer in a week, and close a straightforward deal with you in a month. You can reach out to them at tinycapital, tinycapital.com/startup junkies. All right. And we today are excited to welcome our special guest, Deric Cahill, founder and CEO of Wicked Bold Chocolate. Thank you for joining us, Deric.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Sorry, Jeff.
No, go right ahead. You got it.
I was just saying, tell us about Wicked Bold and how a sales guru became Mr. Chocolate.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't hear that story too much, right? So, Wicked Bold Chocolate started about a little over 6 years ago, like conceptually, my wife and I. So I used to be one of the guys, and I'm sure you guys know people like this, or might even be people like this, that just don't care what you eat. It's just, if it tastes good, let's put it in my belly, right? That's absolutely the guy that I used to be. Didn't matter if it was artificial flavored, didn't read the ingredients list. If I couldn't pronounce it, I just thought it tasted better. My wife is pretty much a full-blown vegan and has been for her whole life, and since I've met her. So we've gone down this journey where she's gotten even more veganized, and I've started the journey, and I live in kind of a flexitarian world. But the start of chocolate started with when I'd go to buy her chocolate. I am the primary chocolate buyer of the house for my wife. And, she started giving me shit that said, dude, look at all these ingredients in the chocolate you're buying me. So I actually started having to turn things around and read them. And one thing that we started saying is you couldn't find a good chocolate that was just chocolate, right? Like the core of chocolate is just cacao and sugar. And then of course, if you have a flavoring, like a spice or a hazelnut. So I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. So I saw that as opportunity to start a business and please my wife. So we bought a pound of cacao beans from where was the first batch that we bought it from? Besides the point, but it was absolute trash. Our first making of chocolate. It was gritty. We didn't do it right at all. I thought for some reason it would be good to put used coffee grounds in our batch. No, I was just trying to live the dream. Move fast and break
just
things.
Stuff laying around the house.
Yeah, I was dunking my kid's head in it. I was like, maybe that will add some just family flavor. But obviously after that epic failure, we didn't have the funds necessary to actually get the machinery for it. So we ended up putting it away for a few years. I got a job at Gartner, rose the ranks, became the VP of sales there. And it was during our move to Texas in 2019, from Florida to Texas, that we kind of looked at each other. We were in a much different financial position and said, let's dive in. Right. My wife was giving me shit anyways. She said I was losing my edge. I was turning into a company man and I was losing my entrepreneurial flair. So no one can talk to me like that. So we didn't have a couch in our house yet. And we had gotten our chocolate melanger, which is like a stone grinding machine. And that kind of began the journey. There's a whole lot more story behind that and making it delicious. But that was step number one is in that little leap.
Talk to me about the name. So who is it that's got the tie to South Boston?
You're talking to that man right now.
That's what I figured, because the only people that say, I lived in Boston for a while in the 80s, the only people that still say Wicked anything have got to have some kind of tie to Boston. That's what I figured. That's cool.
Yeah, or the Yellow Brick Road.
Right.
So
I love it.
I was born and raised in Lynn, Massachusetts. And for anyone listening, they're probably going to say Lynn, the city of sin. There's a great rhyme that goes along with that city. But I moved from Boston to Florida when I was 16. My family decided hey, junior year of high school, let's get the hell out of here. Let's start a new life and interrupt your high school years. So I lived there for 16 years, lived in Florida for about 10 or 11 years. And then I've been in Texas the last year and a half or so.
Any Wahlberg stories in there anywhere? Did you ever get into like street fights with those
Not
guys?
any that I can talk about.
No, okay. All right.
I think the statute of limitations is still existent. No, I'm kidding. I was actually a super normal kid in Boston. I didn't get into any trouble. That all started in Florida.
I gotcha.
Different podcast.
I
Went
got
from a Boston guy to a Florida man.
Yeah, no, I made some renewed identity corrections when I moved to Florida. I was like, all right, if I'm going to start from scratch, I'm going to start from scratch and become the man that I wanted to be. But the name, so of course, Wicked. I somehow convinced my wife to let us use that word in our
I love it.
brand
I
name.
mean, it's memorable. You're not going to forget it. I like it. Really
well,
good.
Bold is it's homage to actually our family. So my wife's name is Brooklyn, my daughter's name is Ophelia, my son is Landon, and I'm Deric. We didn't do that on purpose. When Ophelia was born in 2016, we didn't know what we were going to name her. We saw her. We actually waited till she was born. We didn't know who or he or she was going to be until we saw that baby, and we stuck on Ophelia. And maybe like 30 or 60 days later, we were like, hold on a second, our family's initials spell Bold.
That's cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's kind of dual purpose for us. Of course, it's like our family's name and it's a little shticky, right? But it's also how we live our life. Like before Ophelia was born, we had a little sign, a little wood sign as you go up our stairs that, said like be bold. So it was a mantra before her. And then she kind of just sealed the deal and made it so I'm going to annoy the shit out of everyone for the rest of my life with how my family's initials spell Bold.
So how do you go to market with it? Are you doing a direct to consumer? Are you going through normal retail channels? How are you selling?
Any way we can is the big answer.
Back of the truck.
Yeah. So there's actually a good story in that, and with how we got started. So it took us a few months to like get it together, like where it was tempered appropriately, it wasn't melting in your fingers, it was smooth, it tasted good. And of course, like the first thing that we did, as soon as it snapped, as soon as we had that temper to the bar, that's when I like bought the company website. I started like designing the site, looking at packaging and stuff. But the first method of deployment was farmers markets. And we went and did a couple, and going from, nothing to we went and did a couple farmers markets making like a few $100s a day. I am such a like vision, let's execute, let's grow this as fast as we can. So I abandoned the farmers markets and I was like, let's just put this online. And it was like crickets, dude. Like I thought there was gonna be people across the world that were like, oh my god, Wicked Bold Chocolate's here. Like, dude, what? Hershey's what? So it was actually the pandemic that pushed us back, like made me rethink our approach. I was looking at like wholesale. It just made me slow down a little bit and more look at like deliberate ways to grow. So we got back involved in the farmers market community and started really like trying to build a brand online versus just like, if you build it, they will come. So in today's environment, I think we have a growing retail presence e-commerce presence online, just wickedbold.com. We are in about 18 retail stores now. We just got picked up on fair.com, which is like a wholesale platform for like small businesses around the country that want to do business with up and coming vendors. In November, we actually got picked up by something really cool. It was a year's worth of prospecting and like grind on my part. But if you guys have heard of Touch of Modern,
oh yeah,
online e-commerce, so you guys know about it. We got featured on their website for 5 days, and it looks like we're actually gonna get picked up again for Valentine's Day special. But that was like, you talk about those like little wins that you can celebrate. I had to take at least an hour and be like, Deric, it's not fame, but you're doing it, dude. Like you made it on. They have like 13 million subscribers on that site. And right now we're in the midst of doing something with Gary Vaynerchuk has this thing called Yummy Text that I think we're going to be a part of. So just really, if I can get my hands on it, I'm gonna get my hands on it and get Wicked Bold in the hands of anyone I can.
And you're located in like the greater Dallas area, right? That's where you're.
Yeah, we're in one of the suburbs outside of Dallas, so maybe 20 minutes from the city.
Okay, cool. And so the farmers markets there in that community, I imagine, was.
So we actually, we're in the farmers market that we do is Dallas proper. So the Dallas farmers market, every weekend they're open 365, rain or shine. They have a nice big awning over there, and it's a good community of people. So we've been doing that pretty consistently for the last 8 or so months, and we're actually this week we're hiring 2 more people to help us with that.
Awesome.
You're on the really, sorry, Caleb. I've got
no,
one.
You're fine.
When you're over 50, these kind of things fall out of your head, and if you don't say them, somebody's got to remind you. So forgive me for that. But so you've got the really clean label. I mean, on trend for clean label ingredients you can pronounce and understand. Are you doing anything special with how you're sourcing the beans? I mean, are you getting the cacao directly from farmers? Is there any kind of a sustainability beyond fair trade play that you've got in the mix?
Yeah, so I wish I could say we did this deliberately. I mean, working sustainably and with fair like trade practices and direct trade has always been, we would never do something different, but we work exclusively with Belize beans and farm. We're not to the scale yet. We're working like directly with farmers. That's going to be when we're getting like trucks of beans delivered to us.
Right.
But we work with a partner who brokers that relationship, and it's all direct and fair trade from Belize farmers.
Very cool. Caleb, go ahead.
Awesome. No, I was just going to say the reason I asked about where y'all were located and where y'all were selling at the farmers market is because our largest metro area for listeners outside of Arkansas is Dallas. So I thought I would
throw
that out there for our listeners in the Dallas area who want to come find you at the farmers market.
Yeah, I love doing it too. There's nothing, this is my first foray into like a product business, and especially into like a food or beverage business. I've started some like online tech companies, business to business type things. This is the first time where you get to like that immediate satisfaction of, does someone love this or hate it? And being at the farmers market and seeing someone taste a product that my wife and I make and like react like, oh my God, that's delicious. It's just so freaking cool, man. It's like indescribable almost.
It's hard to get the same level of satisfaction out of having a high net promoter score from your SaaS software, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Understand.
So what inspires inspired the aesthetic and the flavors, like the just kind of everything that's gone into it. You have a dessert or a treat that's, age old. How do you go about that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've always been committed to with our chocolate company is like, I wanted to defeminize it. Not that there's anything wrong with feminine marketing from a chocolate perspective, but it's like, I love chocolate too, man. And like, I was Googling chocolate ads, and it's all like women in like silk robes, like dancing through a living room and reaching for their Dove chocolate. And it's like so smooth and elegant. And it's like, I'm just a scrappy dude. My wife is a scrappy lady. My kids are scrappy kids. And it's like, part of building this brand, one of the things that was so important to me on this one is like, I didn't want this to feel like work when I was like communicating from Wicked Bold. It's like, love me or hate me, love my wife or hate my wife, love the product, hate the product, but it's who we are. And I didn't want it to deviate away from that. So, we're just Wicked Bold, man. Like, our on the front of the packaging, if you guys can see it, like you get those little like up arrows, like that's just about like leveling up is what it means to us. So when you buy our chocolate and like the message you see from us online or on our Instagram, we want to like inspire people to do more with their lives. And some of that comes from the story of like the startup, but it's also just like pushing yourself to see what you're capable of. And that's just like rooted in everything that we do. Like every decision we make, every like nonprofit or charity that we give to, anything that we want to plan locally, we want Wicked Bold to not just be like that, like delicious and smooth chocolate, but like that we stand for something. So that's super duper important to us.
That's really cool. So if I want to have a 6-pack of PBR while I'm sitting on my tractor and eating my chocolate, I'm going to be okay.
Hell yeah, man.
I like
Actually,
it.
if you can catch me a snap of that, like send it.
I like it. That's cool.
So what are the plans for, as you grow and expand Wicked Bold and, perhaps like bringing on, more to a team outside of just you and your family? What's the game plan?
Yeah, so we actually just took like a really big jump, and it's the biggest jump I've ever taken as an entrepreneur too. And I'd lie if I didn't say I was scared shitless a little bit. But we signed a lease for a commercial property in Flower Mound, the city that we live in, and we're actually going to bring more of a vegan concept to the city. It's going to be the first restaurant in the city that has it's exclusively vegan. I don't know if we would have done it independent if we didn't own the chocolate company. Who knows? But I know like we needed to get a bigger commercial kitchen for the production of our chocolate. And we had this big front of house for the space we were going to get. And we started racking our brains on what we'd introduce to it. So we're going to bring like a charcuterie-based, plant-based charcuterie board concept up front, as long as in addition to some mocktails. My wife stopped drinking like 6 months ago, just she got a hair, and said, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking. And when we go out, if I'll get like a old fashioned or something, we have a really hard time finding a non-alcoholic beverage for her to enjoy that isn't like a cup of juice that they put like a pineapple slice on and they say, here you go. So we're bringing that concept wrapped around Wicked Bold. So I think as we grow, Wicked Bold is going to turn and is turning into more of a vegan like lifestyle concept and food company versus just a chocolate brand. So we're super excited about the growth of that. The two people that we're hiring for the Dallas Farmers Market, like when I'm interviewing people, one of the things that I ask them is like, what do you want? Like if you could write your own job and you could do the job of your dreams, what is it that you want to do? Because everything we do as a company, I want it to be rooted in that like giving back and like empowering people to live life to the boldest. Like that's our motto, like live life to the boldest. So both of these people that we're bringing on from the Dallas Farmers Market, you know, they're passionate about marketing, and we have a chief marketing officer. So the segue for them is like, you're not going to be our farmers market person for 5 years. Like I want to put you in a position. So even if your step at Wicked Bold is a year, 3 years, 5 years, like whatever it is, you're leaving us better than when you came to us, and we're positioning you to do whatever the hell you want to do, to be as happy as possible.
Do you think you replicate the retail location that's got the other vegan? I mean, is that something you replicate in other areas, or do you eventually push this into normal retail distribution? What are you thinking about from that standpoint?
Yeah, that's something I've been like challenging myself to chill out with a little bit actually, because like it's never ending for me, man. Like my brain never shuts off from opportunity. Like as soon as we even thought of the idea, it was like franchise, baby, right? So it's definitely, you know, we'll see how it goes, right? Like, listen, I don't have a ton of. I've been like a server at a restaurant. And you know, I've done everything there is to do. I feel like I could write a book about all the jobs I've had, and one of them was like I was a restaurant person, restaurant person, you know, server, bar expo, but we're just kind of going with the flow. My wife doesn't have a ton of experience in this. I've started businesses, but like I have no idea how to open a restaurant. I'm just literally saying like, well, I mean, I can make it happen. If anyone else can do it, Google exists. I'm going to do it. So, I mean, we've run into some bumps and bruises along the way. Like yesterday, I got a plumbing quote that was 4 times what I was expecting it to be. And that put me into like a 10-hour tailspin of like, what am I even doing with my life? Like, why am I even starting business? I have no idea what I'm doing. But like, we'll sort it through. So it's just step by step. And, you know, Jeff, to answer your question, like directly, I think if we can do really special things with this concept, I think it's a really interesting spin, especially on the non-alcoholic part of like being able to go out and have fun without worrying about either getting a DUI or a hangover the next day. And if it's successful, you know, we'd love to spin that off and bring it to other places.
Well, I think, I mean, having looked at a lot of businesses and consulting a lot of businesses, and actually having seen some bean to bar chocolate businesses do very well, you're definitely on trend. I mean, it's a brand that's about you and your family, and you're doing things right and clean label and all that. I think this could be however you define success is where I think you'll end up. And because you're definitely on trend. People are interested in differentiated brands that resonate with them, that aren't the same old thing. And yeah, man, I mean, and I have to say, kudos to you to keep grinding through the pandemic, because a lot of consumer facing businesses at this point are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I mean, but a lot of times the adversity of these sorts of things is the best time ever to start a business, because a lot of people are afraid or they're not able to do it. So
yeah, and
good on you.
I appreciate that, man, but it doesn't come without, like, I got a huge gray patch in my beard now, and I'm pretty sure this is why. I love it. It's my favorite thing I've ever had. I'm treating it like a third kid.
Yeah.
But it, you know, when I think about what we're going through, it's like these defining moments in life that give you very unique opportunities to define who you are. And it's fight or flight at all times. And I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but going through this pandemic, it's like, what are my options? Like, quit? Like, that's never going to leave my mouth. The quitting is not an option. And we're so close to expansion that's like at a certain point, it's like, are you going to be the person that always wanted to do stuff? Or are you going to be are you going to be the guy that might have a couple scars, but you did everything that you said you were going to do? And it's about being like, what it roots for me is being an example, honestly, for me too, to look back and continue to build the repertoire of stuff that I've been through, to challenge and push myself that I can do it. But also like my kids, you know, I want them to grow up and see dad and mom like thrive and push and lose and win and fail and succeed, and that we're okay. But almost even more importantly to that is like the people that are like that second and third level away from us, seeing from the outside. And I'm open as hell about it. Like I did a post on LinkedIn today about my day that I had yesterday, and like what sometimes it means to be an entrepreneur. So going through this pandemic, I hope that in the next few years we can look back at this time and, you know, I'm speaking on it. It's like, yeah, I'm so brave, you know, but there's times, man, where it's really hard to go through what we're going through right now. But at the end of the day, it's either fight or flight. So we're fighting.
Good on you.
Yeah, and I mean, you obviously have got the momentum, you know, seen the success despite all the circumstances. So that, I think that speaks volumes to y'all's hustle and the brand you've built. And I mean, more so than a brand, it almost feels like kind of a movement that you are trying to build there.
Yeah, and the hard part, I love that you just said that, because that's the dream, right? Is that Wicked Bold and whatever we become is so much more than a brand. It is exactly what you said, like a movement. The anxiety part of me and like that business owner me, that entrepreneur me, the challenge, it's like you can't build that yourself. Like I can't take my two hands and go build a movement. That's going to be my wife and my kids and our early employees and the people that love our chocolate. Like they get to determine what we turn into, and I'm just going to keep my hands on the reins right now and make sure that we're taking the risks and we're pushing it forward. I can definitely see some of those like beginning little, you know, some of those little dots. You know, one of my favorite quotes is Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So it was, you know, I mentioned to you guys about getting published on Touch of Modern. It was just such that visceral feeling of like, damn, we're on the right track. Like I could look back at a year's worth of emails. They said no to me, I think 4 or 5 times. We went through like 4 different packaging iterations. And it's so cool. It was all one thread. So like this dude, when he finally said yes, he could have scrolled just 3 scrolls and been like, oh wait, I just told this dude no 3 months ago. You know, it was that realistic. So it's cool to see those dots start forming after a year and a half of grinding and kind of forcing some things into place. But we're just on the way, man. Like the journey's half the battle. And I feel like hopefully I'm having the most fun right now. Yeah, man, it's cool.
You know, you're getting some great brand recognition with things like Touch of Modern and some good exposure. What happens if all of a sudden you get 100,000 orders? I mean, how do you quickly scale up, or what do you do? Do you just keep it capacity constrained and there's scarcity, and if you run out, you run out? I mean, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'd have to give myself a huge pep talk. Honestly, I wish my wife and I used to have a bottle of Macallan that we hated. We absolutely freaking hated. It tastes like old yucky peat moss. But it was our bottle for embracing the suck or celebrating something dope. So we'll have to figure something out. So if we got 100,000 orders, man, after I panicked and tried to celebrate that, I'm a doer. Like I make things happen. You know, another quote is, I'd rather be prepared for the opportunity that's not yet presented itself than have an opportunity present itself and I'm not prepared. So I'm constantly running through these like scenarios of like the what ifs, the what would we do's. If we got an order for 100,000, some emails would have to go out, be like, yo, like it's me and my wife that make this chocolate, be graceful with us. But we'd find a way. That's for sure. There is definitely no crumbling, no closing up shop. We'd find a way. Partial to that, honestly, Jeff, is like this jump we're taking into retail. We're not doing this because we need to today. I did this because I think we'll need to within the next few months. So this is one of those steps to make sure that like our ducks are in a row for like where I think we're heading. We're not too far off in the sense of like revenues and being able to afford it, but like in the sense of like the scale that we're introducing, that was one of the things that we're doing as good stewards of the next few months of our business.
And I was going to say, you know, just, you know, trying in an effort to be prepared, is it something you've thought about going and getting space to, you know, have like full blown production, like chocolate factory style?
That's 2.0, 3.0. I was actually literally thinking about that the other day. It's like, I wonder when that moment comes, because obviously with this concept kitchen that we're rolling out, the kitchen's going to be, I mean, my wife and I are probably going to go up there at 2 p.m. every day to make the chocolate, and it opens at 4 for like general public. So like, we're still going to have a separation of like, you know, church and state in the sense of chocolate and charcuterie. I would say within the next, whether it's timeline 6 to 12 months or like retail partners within the next 6 to 12 months, the vision would have to be getting some sort of production facility set up. Because one of the commitments that we have for ourselves is that we're never going to outsource this. We're never going to go to a co-packer to make this. We talked to a few people, and their standards just are not what we have standards for. When you start getting into commercial production for, like, if Whole Foods knocks on our door and you're talking about co-packers, they're just not working with the quality that we're working with. We're freaking bean to bar and like putting, I don't know if you guys saw this, but we're making cubes of chocolate. We're not doing bars. So there is no like super easy machines to do that. And I think you catch a different taste and a different vibe when you taste this chocolate that you just can't get out of some giant facility that is mass producing for 14 different companies. So we'll have to be in-house. And I love it too, because we get to control the supply chain. We get to control the culture that we're building. Like, the people that will work in that facility will be wicked bold people. And I want that to mean something as we continue to grow. I want it to mean something that, like, if you work at Wicked Bold, like, that's a special thing to do.
Yeah, there are some groups that manage that co-packing, co-manufacturing relationship well, but there's also, and I would say candidly, they're the exception and not the rule. All too often we see emerging brands that get in a co-packing relationship, and just like you say, the quality's not met. The commitments aren't met. Sometimes there's even things where they circumvent the relationships and try to do something similar and sell direct to retail. So you're right on. Vertically integrating, having your own production is the right way to go, particularly if you want to stay kind of boutique and batch and artisan and all those things we tend to associate with really high quality stuff. So I think that's a really smart move. You'll be happy you did, even though it's more capital intensive. Better to just figure that out than kind of sell your soul to a large co-packer.
There's two things that you said there that stand out. One of them is, like, for sure, we have no leverage as a small company. So I mean, if a co-packer wants to tell us, like, nah, dude, too bad, this is the standard that you're going to have for this batch, it's like, oh, well, what am I going to do? Nothing. So I never want to be in that relationship. And then the second piece is in regard to, like, this leveraging out to a co-packer, we then turn into just a marketing company. And that's really not what I want to. I don't want to be a marketing company. Like, I love the vision of being a product bit. Like, it gives me the ability, to your point, like, vertically integrating, like, the people that produce and work for us are our people. There is no faux pas in regard to, like, who makes what. Like, our bags get the same made and distributed by Wicked Bold, and that means something to me. And I hope it means something to, like, the people that read the back of packages, which maybe are like 7% of the United States, but it definitely means something to us. We're not after this to be a marketing company.
And more than that, the eventual production facility that y'all do have, I can see, being the Wicked Bold Willy Wonka factory of Texas. I mean, with
yeah, dude, we'll get huge freaking fake smokestacks that are putting non-pollution into the air. And it's the cool part. Like, all the mock-ups that I do, like, financially incorporates the scale in which we operate now. So, we can obviously get bigger machines to make our chocolate, but they're the same concept, stone grinders, where we don't need to be sacrificing on the ingredients that we're put into there. Like, a lot of chocolate companies will get, like, cocoa liqueur, which is like a mixture of a bunch of different kind of beans. They're roasted up. Who knows, like, how long they're sitting around. And then to kind of circumvent that, I don't really want to call it the word, like, artisanal, but, like, the tempering process to make it, the texture and the consistency, all right, they'll put chemicals in there, like chemical shine, to make it look perfect. It's like, dude, if our chocolate's not shiny, like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, it's delicious still. It's like, they all look good. So, I mean, they're not dusty, but it's just that, I don't know, man. I think we've lost the sense of, like, standards for our food. So that's where I would get back to, like, the whole food, this food movement versus just chocolate. I can, we're thinking right now of some, like, different products to roll out over the next, like, year or two that kind of expand us beyond chocolate, like, crackers, whatever it may be. I don't know what the hell they're going to be, but that's what I'm passionate about. And that's, I actually am probably worse than my wife now with ingredient reading. I don't drink a damn thing that says, like, natural flavors in there. And the majority of people were, oh, natural flavors, that's so good. They're natural, but they're not. They're, like, chemically
right.
made to mimic natural flavors. And they might have, like, a splash of lime in there.
Yeah.
But
wood resin is natural.
Exactly. I don't do it. It, like, almost makes me sick when I even read, oh, damn it, I can't eat that. It also makes me extra.
Are you doing any collaborations with craft breweries or with distilleries? Are you heading that route at all?
No, ideating on it, nothing kind of in stone. We're still, we don't have a lot to offer, a brewery or something to do anything with, Wicked Bold Chocolate at scale. Like we have some local people that we're starting to reach out to, but we have like 500 followers on Instagram. So it's not like we're, it could be any value from like a shared perspective, but we're building some really cool relationships with some startup companies in our local area. Like one of them is All Y'all's Food. They make vegan jerky. And we've kind of been, we have some really good like back and forth banter. There's actually quite a few stores in the DFW area that just for whatever rhyme or reason, we're right next to each other at all times. Like their jerky and our chocolate is always right next to each other. So there's been some whispers of like a chocolate jerky collab. But those are things, we're super excited. We like literally just finalized it last week with our founding member for our marketing team. And that's the stuff I'm super excited for from her, like collaborating with some like local wineries and beer and wine companies and stuff.
Well, if you want to be successful in the hill country in Texas or in the Ozarks, you take the jerky and you cover it with your chocolate and then you deep fry it and you'll sell and if you can wrap it in bacon, that'd be great too.
That would, how funny would that be? Vegan jerky wrapped in vegan chocolate covered in bacon.
Kind of a non sequitur, but it could work. That's neat.
I would definitely eat that. Deric, it's probably close to the time where we kind of try to land the plane. We always like to ask our guests of the podcast if they could go back in time and chat with their younger self, give their younger self advice. What would that advice look like for you?
Man, that's a really good question. It would be 100% advice I probably wouldn't listen to. But one of the things, that I share, and it's stuff I'm working on like to this day with commitments for myself. But I lived my 20s backwards. I had a kid when I was 20, finished school when I was 29. I got my degree in college at 29. So I went things about backwards. So I'm very atypical. So people that listen to my advice are like, Deric, no. But if I were to go back, I've always been the idea guy, right? Like I was leading teams and starting businesses when I was like 17. I didn't know what I was doing, zero idea what I was doing. But one thing has always been consistent. And there was always like that, I always had that inner voice of doubt. Like, you can't do it. You're not meant for it. You don't have the money to do that. And it's gotten much quieter as I've gotten older, and as I haven't had any wild success as an entrepreneur. Like I've had some big personal success, like big aha moments about who I am as a person and a business leader. But I just go back and tell myself to like chill out and like that I'm capable of doing like whatever you want. Because it wasn't until probably like my late 20s that I really was able to look at myself and believe me when I said I could do anything that I wanted. And I still believe that. Like if I go start a friggin' rocket ship company tomorrow, if I really wanted to, I'd have to hire some really smart people, but I could start the company. I could be the CEO of the company leading the way. And I really believe that. I have no plans to start that company, but one of my commitments, I have it right here. It's been next to me since I wrote it. My wife challenged me to write things I'm leaving behind in 2020, and I could only get number 1 out because number 1, I wrote 1 and 2. So I wrote 1, and then number 2, I just wrote C number 1. It says self-doubt. So leave self-doubt behind in 2020. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be perfect or, to have all the answers. And sometimes that culminates into like a dark moment where I have a lot of imposter syndrome that creeps in, but I just got to stay believing that I'm the man. I'm not the best at everything, but like I can do whatever the hell I want. And I'd scream that at 20-year-old Deric. He'd laugh at me, but I'd scream it.
Great advice. I mean, most things in life are tenacity and resilience, and just grinding your way through it carries the day. It's really true. Just not giving up. No, that's great advice.
It's crazy to look at. I mean, when you think about like, I'm a firm believer in like iterating until you get it and starting. I think I am an expert at starting 100%. Put me up against anybody starting something, I will do it. When I look at the iterations of our chocolate packaging, we still have all of them. So I'm sure one day we'll be able to do something super exciting with them. But when we got that first snap, we got these ugly as hell little clamshells, because when we first started, it's like, oh, we can have them clip open, and we had this ugly little sticker on it. And we've iterated. We went to bags with ugly labels, and then ugly bags with cool labels, back to ugly labels, and then finally, like, to look at this package with freaking a barcode with a little dancing family on the back of it, to our first package, is like, you can't, I would be a fool to look at that progression and be like, you can't do something to yourself or to like my wife or show my kids. So it's like looking at those small little victories along the way and making sure that you can add them up at the end it's such a powerful tool as any entrepreneur, or like anyone just trying to set goals for themselves.
Well, where can our listeners, which are in 100 countries, as it turns out, I think we got like one guy in Bulgaria, but they are in 100 countries. Where can they find out more about Wicked Bold and your story?
Well, first, I can only talk to one country, which is the United States. So everyone else, close your ears, because we just can't ship anywhere else right now. But you can find us at wickedbold.com, spelled just how it sounds. We've got our four flavors: spicy, which is my favorite; hazelnut, sea salt, classic, and then we of course do like a variety pack. And I'll throw a discount code up for the Startup Junkie listeners. I'll make the code just Startup Junkie, and we'll throw 20% off for anyone that wants to order anything after this episode. And then if they live in a random area where we have an actual retail location that's picking up our chocolate, it's seriously like a shotgun blast and a map is where we're carried. We have like one place in Missouri, one place in Florida, a couple places in California, but you can find that on the website as well. And for all my Dallas people, in the next few weeks, you'll see us back at the farmers market on the weekends. But if you don't see us, we do still have a website. It's one of the things I've noticed. If they buy it at the farmers market, we're dead to them if we're not there again.
Thanks for coming on, Deric. Great story. Best of luck. Love what you're doing. I mean, who doesn't love chocolate? And when you can do it in an artisan or a craft way where you've got a really strong brand, we look forward to hearing a lot more about your success. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, for sure, Jeff and Caleb. Super appreciated the time. The conversation was awesome, and looking forward to joining you guys again one day.
Sounds good.
See you, Deric.
See ya.
Bye.